I'm back. So I just wanted to jump on and do a really fast review of Total Recall, the 30th anniversary edition. 30 years, right? 30 years since I watched this in the theater, and I did see it in the theater. And I'll have to tell you, it hasn't looked any better. It's never looked better than it does on this 4K disc. If you saw me yesterday, I was in the car, went down to Best Buy. I figured, hey, why not pick up a new release? It's an old movie, but a new release, and try a video review or a movie review, a review of a disc. And so I got excited by that concept or that thought. Jumped in the car, had $5 off anyway through a coupon, or I think Best Buy bucks actually, that we had for something else we bought. And so I was able to get this for $10. And it sounded like a good way to do, since, you know, most 4K discs are like 25 when they come out. Figured, well, hey, why not do this? Now, definitely a great disc. Let me just show you. I will unbox it for you now. I didn't unbox it in the car. Slip cover. You know, it's very, very nice. And, you know, it's interesting how, you know, with these 4K discs, just using the black and silver really gives it kind of a, it just brings it up a level than a normal Blu-ray. But nice cover art. There's Arnold, he'll be back. And it's got the digital code. I'll throw that down there. And so you have your standard Blu-ray. I mean, sorry, this is the standard Blu-ray. Over here on the right is some special features. You know, the special features are okay. You know, a lot of them have, there's not a lot of new stuff on here. A couple things. I may have missed stuff. I went through some of the special features too and watched this movie last night with my wife. And then, of course, disc 1. And, yeah, so it's a nice little set. Gives you everything you need. Picture disc with Arnold. And they're all picture discs, as you can see, just different colors. So, there you go. Very nice. So, yeah, it's, so I made some notes, because I noticed my last full-length video was, yeah, it was a little bit all over the place. So I just wanted to have some notes so I don't forget to tell you things. Of course, this came out in 1990. That was the year I graduated high school, and I went out to see this with my friend Sean. And I don't remember too much, but I do remember seeing it in the theater. But I don't remember too much of, you know, any crazy things that happened before or after. I do have some stories to tell you. Like, I have a story about Willow that I'll tell you one of these days. One of these days we'll talk about Willow. It's based on a story, We Can Remember It For You Wholesale by Philip K. Dick. I have not watched that. I have watched that. I have not read that. And that's something, one of my, because I'm a nerd, you know, one of my favorite things to do is to read a novel or a short story, and that's a short story, and then see how it's translated onto film. I do find that fun. And I'm going to get to reading that, because not only do I like this movie, I like the remake with Colin Farrell. You know, that one suffers a little bit from the, you know, the villain, where there's going to be a fight, and the villain is, he's just not imposing enough, right? In this case, I hate to say he's an old guy. Yeah. But just for the screen, certain movies, including the Total Recall remake, the original John Wick, and even Wonder Woman, kind of suffer from that a little bit. If you look at that, that's just how I see it. But so yeah, so I enjoyed those. Let's see what else. Yeah, it's 30th anniversary. Well, you know what I thought was interesting too is that 30 years ago, If you look at that, if you went to see this movie in 1990 like I did, in 1990, a 30-year-old movie would have been made, or would have come out in 1960. So that just gives you a little bit of perspective that this, how old this movie kind of is. Again, it's never looked better. They did a fantastic job with the transfer. There's some grain structure in here, but I don't think it's overbearing. It's fine. It's fine grain structure. It's good. I thought it looked great. It probably depends on the TV and the processing. On a Sony, it's going to look a lot better than maybe a TCL. But it depends. I know TCL makes some good TVs. I just mean there's different levels of processing, and I think Sony tends to process in such a way that it, for whatever reason, their X1 chip and stuff seems to like smooth things out a little bit on that end. Now, the Dolby Vision HDR was definitely bright. It good specular highlights, nice color. That definitely very, very nice looking, very bright, very enjoyable to watch. We've got an almost anamorphic widescreen. It's not quite 16:9. It's a 185:1, which takes up most of the screen. It's hard to notice, but there's small little black bars. But for the most part, it fills up the screen, which we tend to like, right? We tend to like that. I like to see the original aspect ratio, and I believe this is. Possibly, but it looks nice. It doesn't seem like you're missing anything. When it comes to story with this, interestingly, and again, some of my notes are in no particular order. This story is Journey and Return. I like to talk about story because being a writer, I like to watch a movie and figure out what plot or plots it's running. In this movie, I should be holding this up just to make sure. If there's a thumbnail, so I don't have to go try to figure out how to make a thumbnail, which I'm going to do soon. But with story, when these movies run different plots, it's interesting to see what they do with them. And this plot, from what I can see, is definitely predominantly Journey and Return. And in Journey and Return, basically what happens, it's kind of like Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, stories like this, where the character suffers a loss of consciousness. They may get bumped on the head, they may wake up from a dream, like in this movie. They may just be distracted, and when they look back, they're in another world. Now, it may look like our world, or it may look as different as going to Oz. But you're in a different world, and now you have to get back home, and to do it, you have to go through a bunch of tricksters, and that's what happens here. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just 1 second. So that was interesting. That's really what they're running. This is a Journey and Return. Lots of everything is what's reality. Right? Are we in the real reality? Who is this person? Is this a good person? Is this a bad person? Even Schwarzenegger's character, we don't know if he's good, bad, what's going on. There's all sorts of turnarounds. So very, very interesting. Definitely sets and movie magic in a time before CGI. For the most part, there's some motion capture and stuff. They did use some computer generated scenes, but this is really in the beginning, and they had to use like huge sets, and it really holds up today in many ways. I mean, some of the stuff is kind of interesting, and I was a big fan of gore, and I used to read Gore Zone magazine and watch all the watch all the gory movies and stuff in the 1980s. I was really into horror. And, today, this movie in some shots, I mean, I know they're using like puppetry and everything, but some of the stuff is kind of grotesque and it's kind of hard to watch. I know my wife is kind of like, during some of those scenes. And there's a lot of Arnold Schwarzenegger going, he's doing most of that throughout the movie. So lots of practical effects. Diesel's down. He's going to be jumping up in a second, probably. So what else? Yeah, lots of Arnold screaming and grunting. I think with Arnold Schwarzenegger, even though he shows more range in this movie than probably in previous films, it shows the limitations in his range as well. But he's really, such a big presence in this film that it works. And we like seeing him in this film. Certainly early Sharon Stone, early film for her. Let's see what else. I noticed too that there's a couple things. There's a lot of Greek myth and maybe the Arabian Nights in this story. And I have to really think about it a little bit more. But we have oracles, and of course, just like in Journey and Return, we have tricksters, but that is definitely in mythology. We have duplication of self with like, the watch that he's wearing, or the wristlet that he wears that duplicates himself, and where people don't know who he is, don't know where he is in space and time, basically, all this stuff is like magic, but it's done with technology. And it just reminds me of Greek myth and the Arabian Nights. He even wears a turban in this movie for a very short time. So I think there's a real, idea of, magic. And Schwarzenegger kind of plays a character who is both a warrior and a magician. And he's facing other magicians and some warriors who are magicians. They're just kind of interesting, these archetypal concepts. I just find it interesting. I know I'm like kind of a nerd. I wrote down ambiguous ending. This movie takes its time to set up everything and then to give you questions, and it's all pieced together very well. So at the end, you think, what did happen? And you can be the pessimist or the optimist in this film. It's definitely something interesting to think about. Of course, I'm trying not to give too many spoilers or anything like that. I know it's a 30-year-old movie, but some of you haven't seen it, and it's definitely worth a watch. Let's see, everything. Yeah, and I wrote everything is set up with foreshadowing. Very, very well. I saw this too. Maybe I'll talk about The Shining, and rewatching that movie. It's like everything in that beginning of that movie is sets up everything in the end. And I would also ask you, if you're interested to, when you watch a movie that's constructed well, or read a novel that's constructed well, a lot of times, hello, you can't see Diesel, he's down here. When you see these things, a movie that's, let me pick him up, since he is the mascot. When a movie is constructed well, it usually begins the way it ends. Right? It mirrors. The beginning tends to mirror the ending. And that's something I try to remember. Something I have to do better at when I understand, when I start working on my stories. Okay, I think it's crafted a lot better than a lot of modern films today. They really took their time back then. And it's amazing. And it was I think it was the most expensive film at that time. Talking about actors, Johnny Cab is played by Robert Picardo, who you also know as the emergency medical hologram in Star Trek First Contact and Voyager. He's known as the Doctor. I forgot to write down I think there's a character name. But it was interesting to realize that, and he looks like him too. I mean, the Johnny Cab character the animatronics look like Robert Picardo. So it's of course when he's much younger, but it was kind of fun to see. Let's see what else. I always think of I had when the TSA began X-raying people at airports. This is the movie I thought of, right? And it's still very interesting. Models over CGI, and that's basically a lot of the stuff I wanted to talk about this film. It's the Echo Dot just went off and told me what time it was. I don't know why. I don't know if you could hear that. It was off. Went off in the other room. I don't know if it's telling me that it's time to make dinner. It probably is. I know Diesel would like to eat. He's definitely. Well, you always want to eat, don't you? Don't you? You always want to eat something. So I just figured I'd jump on. Definitely, this is definitely a good pickup. I wouldn't hesitate to recommend this. If you like the film, if you haven't seen the film, if you have 4K, if you want to be ready for a 4K upgrade, because it has the Blu-ray, you'll be all set, and a digital. So, if you prefer to watch your movies digitally, you can have that, and it's just a nice presentation, nice package. They did a great job. I went out and bought this myself. If the studios would like to send me movies for me to review, I would definitely do that in the future. Yes, and Diesel would too. He will give you his opinion. He, tends to sleep through most of these films, but I'm sure he has thoughts on them. So we can maybe ask him at another time. So, I guess the last thing to say right now is, Diesel says goodbye. I'll say goodbye. And of course, I must say at the end, because it has to be said, shortly. First off, click like, if you will. If you would. If you'd click like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. I'll do more videos. Tell me what you'd like to know in the comments. Tell me do you have this video? This 4K disc? Do you have the Blu-ray? What do you think of it? What do you think of the movie? What was your experience? Did you see it in the theater? Let me know what you think in the comments, and that would be great. And then, next time, because it has to be said, I was building up to this, I'll be back. Okay. that was just stupid. But anyway, Diesel and I are off to have some dinner, and then I'll be uploading this shortly, and hope you enjoy it, and hope you enjoy the movie. That's right? Right? Want them to enjoy the movie. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Okay. Yeah, Diesel's had just about enough of me. Okay, I will see you next time.